Natiravanachari Yashodanandana Brajajana Randana Yamunatiravanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Acharya Shtodatara Srimad. His divine loving grace Abhaya Charnadavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Acharya Shtodatara Srimad. His divine grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem se Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki, Ganga Maya Ki, Jamuna Maya Ki, Bhakti Devi Tulsi Maharani Ki, Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Grantarasham and Bhagavatam Ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrita Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Nastapreshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Shevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, chapter number 22, text number 16. Vyaktam Atma Vatam Atma Bhagavan Atma Bhavana Swanam Anugrahaye Mam Siddha Rupi Charat Yaja Vyaktam Atma Vatam Atma Bhagavan Atma Bhavana Swanam Anugrahaye Mam Siddha Rupi Charat Yaja Vyaktam Atma Vatam Atma Bhagavan Atma Bhavana Swanam Anugrahaye Mam Siddha Rupi Charat Yaja
Vyaktam Atma Vatam Atma
Vyaktam Atma Vatam Atma
Bhagavan Atma Bhavana
Bhagavan Atma Bhavana Swanam Anugrahaye Mam
Siddha Rupi Charat Yajaha
Siddha Rupi Charat Yaja Vyaktam Yatma Vidam Yatma Bhagavan Atma Bhavana
Swanam Anugrahaye
Mam
Siddha Rupi Charat Yajaha
Vyaktam Atma Vatam Atma Bhagavan Atma Bhavana Swanam Anugrahaye Mam Siddha Rupi Charat Yaja. Word for word. Vyaktam, clear. Atma Vatam, of the Transcendentalists. Atma, the goal of life. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Atma Bhavana, always worshiping to elevate the living always wishing to elevate the living entities. Swanam, whose own devotees. Anugrahaya, just to show mercy. Imam, this way. Siddha Rupi, perfectly self-realized. Charati, travels. Ajaha, Narayana. For translation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always anxious to elevate the living entities who are his parts and parcels, and for their special benefit, the Lord travels all over the world in the form of self-realized persons like you. Please repeat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always anxious to elevate the living entities who are his parts and parcels, and for their special benefit, the Lord travels all over the world
Lord travels all over the world
in the form of self-realized persons like you.
in the form of self-realized persons like you.
Purport. There are different kinds of transcendentalists, namely the Gyanis or impersonalists, the mystic yogis, and of course, all the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kumaras, however, were both yogis and Gyanis, and finally bhaktas later on. In the beginning, they were impersonalists, but later they developed devotional activities. Therefore, they are the best of transcendentalists. The devotees are representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to elevate the conditioned souls to their original consciousness, they travel all over the universe to enlighten the conditioned souls about Krishna consciousness. The best devotees are Atmavat, or those who have fully realized the super soul, the Supreme Soul. The Supreme Personality of Godhead as Paramatma is sitting within everyone's heart, trying to elevate everyone to the platform of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, he is called Atmabhavana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always trying to give the individual soul the intelligence to understand about himself. He is always with the individual as a friend, sitting by the side of a friend. And he gives facilities to all living entities according to their desires. The word Atmavatam is significant in this verse. There are three different kinds of devotees, namely the Kanishta Adhikari, Madhya Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The neophyte, the preacher, and the Mahabhagavat, or the highly advanced devotee. The highly advanced devotee is one who knows the conclusion of the Vedas in full knowledge. Thus he becomes a devotee. Indeed, not only is he convinced himself, but he can convince others on the strength of Vedic evidence. The advanced devotee can also see all other living entities as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord without discrimination. The Madhyama Adhikari, preacher, is also well versed in the Shastras and can convince others also, but he discriminates between the favorable and the unfavorable. In other words, the Madhyam Adhikari does not care for the demoniac living entities, and the neophyte Kanishta Adhikari does not know much about the Shastras, but has full faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kumaras, however, were Mahabhagavatas, because after scrutinizingly studying the absolute truth, they became devotees. In other words, they were in full knowledge of the Vedic conclusion. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed by the Lord that there are many devotees, but a devotee who is fully conversant in the Vedic conclusion is very dear to him. Everyone is trying to elevate himself to the highest position according to his mentality. The karmis, who have a bodily concept of life, try to enjoy sense gratification to the utmost. The jnani's idea of the highest position is merging into the effulgence of the Lord. But a devotee's highest position is in preaching all over the world the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the devotees are actually the representatives of the Supreme Lord. And as such, they travel all over the world directly as Narayan, because they carry Narayan within their heart and preach his glories. The representative of Narayana is as good as Narayana. But he is not to conclude, like the Mayavadis, that he has become Narayan. Generally, a sannyasi is addressed as Narayana by the Mayavadis. Their idea is that simply by taking sannyas, one becomes equal to Narayana, or becomes Narayana himself. The Vaishnava's conclusion is different, as stated by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Shakshadari tvaina samashtra shastra uktastata bhavyateva sabi Kinto Prabhuya Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanadavindam. According to the Vaishnava philosophy, a devotee is as good as Narayan, not by becoming Narayan, but by becoming the most confidential servant of Narayan. Such great personalities act as spiritual masters for the benefit of the people in general. And as such, a spiritual master who is preaching the glories of Narayana should be accepted as Narayana and be given all respects due him. Om Jnanatamarandhyasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurue Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Swagajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavan Ishwari Vishubhanu Shruti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarobhyasta Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Dinamani Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavad Pashtita Deshitarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So it's a nice verse here because we're speaking about the glories of spreading Krishna consciousness, which is so important for us to understand, because the process of receiving mercy is the process of giving mercy to others. That's a fact. We were speaking last night during Gangamantri Prabhu's class about leadership, and he gave a nice point, or he delineated a point that we should understand in a very nice way, that a real leader is one who serves his leader, and in that way becomes a leader. So Lord Chaitanya is very anxious to take us all back to Godhead. There's one part in the Chaitanya Charitamrita where Lord Chaitanya actually says, I'm very anxious about the fallen conditioned souls. Prabhupada says that in the purport. Lord Chaitanya, he says, I have so many fruits of love of God no one is taking. So what do you do if someone you love has anxiety? What do you try to do?
Alleviate them.
You try to alleviate their anxiety. So the Lord is anxious for us to all come back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, in order to alleviate his anxiety, we must take up the work of helping to bring the fallen conditioned souls back home, back to Godhead. And in that way, we become the dearest people to Krishna. Krishna says, Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyajimam namaskar mameva shashi shatyamte pratijani priyosi me. The ultimate secret of all secrets is to always think of Krishna, become Krishna's devotee, worship Krishna, give your homage to Krishna, and in that way you'll come to Krishna without fail. Then he says that we should abandon all the varieties of religion and surrender unto him. Sarvadharman prityaja. Make him number one in our life, and all of our sins will be relieved by his grace. And then he says that one who explains this secret to the devotees is the dearest servant to me, and never will there be one more dear to me than he. So this explaining that we should surrender to Krishna is the way to become dear to Krishna. So sometimes when I am preaching and I have that opportunity, that's really not just saying it, but where the people are feeling it, and you can actually make the point to tell them, the secret of all secrets is simply to always think of Krishna. It's really satisfying because you understand that just by sharing this knowledge, one becomes very dear to Krishna. And you can feel how by giving mercy to others, you become dear to Krishna. It's just so self-evident. Pratyak savagimam dharmam susukam kartamavyayam. It's self-evident that when you really work hard to preach Krishna consciousness, you become so joyful inside because Krishna is giving you so much mercy. I know that since I've been back, since I've been back from India, which has been over a year, it seems like we've been really on fire. I always feel like it's been like intense preaching, and we've had so many nice devotees come and really take up the process seriously. And I spend a lot of time speaking to people and explaining. And when I go in front of Gaur Nitai in the morning, I just feel like so enthused they just give me so much like enthusiasm, because I feel as though they're happy with what we're doing here and trying to spread Krishna consciousness. And you see devotees like, Parameshwar Prabhu, he's really blissed out all the time. Actually, if you notice, not in a weird way or trying to, but he does walk around with tears in his eyes all the time. He's very, very serious. You have a conversation with him, because he's so dedicated to spreading Prabhupada's mercy to others. And that gives one so much satisfaction. So in understanding that, we should feel the desire to take up that mission wherever we're at, however we can, or to help those who are. That's also just as powerful as preaching yourself, is helping those who are preaching. Actually, we're not preaching, Prabhupada is preaching in one sense. There was one actual story like that where the devotee was sitting with Srila Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, I'm preaching. Prabhupada said, you are preaching. He said, you are not preaching, I am preaching. You are helping me preach. So, of course, at different times Prabhupada said we should preach, so that's just one instance. But the idea is that, we're assisting Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya's preaching. Because we can't say anything about Krishna without being empowered by Krishna to speak. So the process of giving others mercy also requires us to be very serious about our own Krishna consciousness. The more that we can sharpen our blade, so to speak, then when it comes time to do battle with the Mayavadis or do battle with the person who is new, in a sense, you're battling Maya, they're going to ask so many questions, they're going to ask so many challenges. You should be able to systematically slice and dice every argument they have if you're armed with this philosophy properly. And I think any preacher experiences that. Krishna will empower them, and if they know the Bhagavad Gita, there's absolutely no question they can ask that cannot be answered by the Bhagavad Gita, because this is the perfect philosophy. It's Krishna's philosophy, therefore it's undefeatable. Once I was being preached to by Dasa Prabhu when I was really brand new, and he explained this point. He said, we were having a conversation, and he was saying, one of the ways you can tell this is the supreme philosophy is because it can't be defeated in any way, shape, or form. And I've come to realize that more and more, that any argument someone can put forward, the Bhagavat philosophy will defeat. So if they're sincere, then they will become devotees. If they're envious, they won't. Even they know you're right, they still won't become devotees because they're envious. And so, like Prabhupada is explaining the Madhyama Adhikari makes those distinctions. And we're not Uttama Adhikaris yet. So we have to, make distinctions, because otherwise it's actually offensive for our spiritual life to preach to the envious too much. Of course, we try to give them mercy by giving them prasadam in the holy name, but sit there and spend our time wasting our energy with those who, I mean, how many times have book distributors experienced proving a Christian wrong in every way, shape, or form? And they're just like, well, I'll pray for you. It's like it's the ultimate energy drain. So you just have to, what's your name? Nice to meet you. Have a good day. Don't engage. But so yeah, we have to sharpen our own blade. We should have that consciousness. I mean, that's what becoming a devotee really means in Lord Chaitanya's movement. We're taking up Lord Chaitanya's mission. Lord Chaitanya engaged every devotee in Sankirtan, in going out and spreading the glories of the holy name. Lord Chaitanya would send Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur door to door, and they would knock on every door and they would humbly ask people, please chant the holy name of Krishna. Is it Bolo Krishna, Koro Krishna? What is it? Mato Krishna Shiksh, something like that. I forget the song. So if you simply think of Krishna, talk about Krishna, chant Krishna's name, you'll be happy. And so Lord Nityananda and Haridas would go to door and they would ask people. And sometimes people would say they didn't want to chant Krishna's name. So Lord Nityananda would get on the ground and beg them to please chant Krishna's name. And sometimes he would even roll on the floor, begging them to chant Krishna's name. And you see, this is actual process, One time, Prabhupada Saraswati also was, he would beg people, please, chant Krishna's name. And so our Ganganath Prabhu used to take that seriously. They'd be like, I don't want a book. He'd go, please, bro, please take the book. He would beg them. And there was that one time this guy he was slightly interested. He had read a Bhagavad Gita, and then Ganganath just decided to go all in and try to distribute him a Srimad Bhagavatam set. The guy goes, I think that's a little much for me right now. Ganganath goes, please, bro, please. And so the guy said, okay, take the Bhagavatam set. So any way, shape, or form in which we can spread the glories of the holy name, we should take it up. But the idea is that we're not just it's not just a place to come have an easy life. The temple or be the Krishna consciousness movement is not just this, let's just live the good life type thing. We should have the mentality that we are working for the Lord. That is what being a devotee means. It means we are working for the Lord. It's really clear. And if you analyze what the Shastras are saying, it's very clear. Because we hear Mahatmanas tumam partha daivim prakritim ashritaha, that the Mahatmas are under the divine, the daivim prakritim, they're under the internal potency. That's Radharani. They're under that. Vajantyananya manaso gyata bhutitamavyayam, because they understand Krishna's position. They're under Radharani's protection. And therefore they're engaging in this satatam kirtayantamam. They're always chanting the Lord's glories. They're endeavoring with great determination to serve the Lord, and they're bowing down before the Lord with devotion. Namashantashtimam bhaktya. So what does it mean to endeavor with great determination to serve the Lord? How do we do that in this age? In Arjuna's case, endeavoring with great determination meant killing Bhishma Dev, killing Dronacharya, killing the Kuru dynasty with all his might. That's what, in Arjuna's case, endeavoring with great determination meant to totally obliterate the Kuru army, which Arjuna did. But in our case, Krishna is not asking us to fight. Krishna is asking us to go door to door, to go out to everybody we meet, to tell them about Krishna. Some people actually are like that. Govinda Dat Prabhu, you go to the store with him, he meets the cashier and he goes, have you heard of Krishna? And you'd be surprised how many people he brings to the temple. But it's almost like, oh my gosh, Prabhu, like, can you tone it back a second? Because he's so like gung-ho. Oh wow, you've never heard of Krishna. 1975, 1972, I was listening to the Beatles, it just goes on. Give them a book. Anything we can do. But that's the consciousness of the devotee, that we are working in Lord Chaitanya's movement. Lord Chaitanya is not asking us to go out and fight. Lord Chaitanya is asking us to go out and preach. So whatever service our service may be, that's an individual thing. But the idea is that we're working to bring people to Krishna. That's our understanding, and that's the understanding of the Madhyamadikari. I'm not just here to see the deities and that's the basic devotee. I see the Lord and the deities. I like it. That's the basic thing. But the higher level is that you're arming yourself and preparing yourself for how you can help someone come to Krishna, how you can assist Lord Chaitanya. And it's not that we don't have a good time. It's not you have to be like some dead serious, no life person. My Guru Maharaj explains it nicely, that just like in a battlefield, in a war, there's many times where there's no fighting going on. And so you might find that the warriors are playing cards, or they're joking with each other, they're cooking together, they're laughing with each other, but they're never not aware of the fact that they're in the war. It's always on their mind. And if it came time to do battle, they would be ready just like that. And although they're, also interacting with each other in a very loving way, or, how much can you be in a war zone, but in a friendly way, they're also at the same time, when they have free time, what are they doing? They're cleaning their rifle, they're sharpening their blade, they're making sure that when the time comes, they're ready. So in the same way, we may not always be on books, always be preaching or giving a class, but we are always required to sharpen our blade, that when the time comes, we can unleash the shlokas, unleash the knowledge on them, and, defeat that argument, or do whatever we can, distribute them a book. But we're armed with the philosophy, and we're not affected by Maya ourselves. To that degree, we can also preach. And I find it's a true fact that really it's saying here that the Uttama Adhikari, Prabhupada actually he writes this very particularly. He says, the highly advanced devotee is not one who knows 1,000 shlokas, is one who knows the conclusion of the Vedas in full knowledge. So more than knowing all the Vedas is knowing the conclusion of the Vedas. That is the actual understanding. What is the conclusion of the Vedas? Vaidashta Shavira Hameva Vedyo Vedanta Kridveda Vedeva Chaham. That Krishna is the object of the Vedas. He's the knower of the Vedas. He's the compiler of the Vedas. The Vedas are all about Krishna. That's the end of it all, is understanding Krishna. He's the writer of the Vedas, and he's the one who knows the Vedas. So if we can understand that Vedic conclusion, that Krishna is the absolute truth, then to the degree we can become convinced of that, we can preach to others. And if you notice in Srila Prabhupada's preaching, he's always speaking as a matter of fact. He's speaking it as a matter of fact, because it is a fact. And if we can just understand that by seriously studying and praying and seriously chanting, following the process, eating prasadam, sharpening our intelligence, then when we speak, people really, they just can't help but be attracted to you, because you're speaking with authority. You have authority because you're in the parampara. You are who Krishna is speaking about here. The devotees are the representatives of the Lord. Now, you may not be Srila Prabhupada, we're not. But Lord Chaitanya is saying, no matter where you're at, be a guru. Preach the message of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. No matter who you are, no matter where you're at, no matter what the politics are saying, no matter anything, be a guru. That means teach people about Krishna. Teach them how to become devotees. Never lose sight of that. Prabhupada was like that. Every single person who came into his purview, he was thinking, how can I engage this person in Krishna service? And if we have that focus, if we have that mentality, if we develop that understanding that I'm here in this movement to really help Lord Chaitanya, then we find that Krishna will send us all these people. It just happens. Krishna just mystically sends you people. I mean, we were, all glory to the Mayapur Institute, because, I learned so much there, and I got so much deeper understanding. I read the Bhagavad Gita many times. I got a deeper understanding, and I felt like, the blessings of the devotees and the pleasing my spiritual master, pleasing the devotees, you'll get the blessings to serve Lord Chaitanya in a more dynamic way. But when you have the knowledge and you have the ability to help someone, Krishna will send you people to help. That is definitely true. I'm always amazed how, it seems like there's not so many people in Tucson, and how many of them could become devotees. But somehow or another, I find like every time there's initiation, 3 new people show up in one initiation for my Gurudev. It's always just so weird how it happens. Because Krishna sends the people. So you'll get, and it doesn't mean you have to, Krishna will send you people It doesn't mean that you have to, give them the Shastra and the shlokas. And, sometimes just preaching to someone is just being their friend or just showing what it's like to be a devotee. How I'm not affected in the same way you're affected by these problems. And therefore I can give you compassion and love. It's all based on who you are. I mean, I like to preach from the Shastras and be very, very I like to quote shlokas and that type of thing. It's just how I feel like I like to give class and talk to people. And Krishna sends me people that respond to that. But, our Gurudev, he my spiritual master, people come to him and he just basically gives them love and, just explains to them that Krishna loves them with conviction. And coming from that conclusion of the Vedas that Krishna is the absolute truth, with that conviction, people are elevated and uplifted by that. So we can always encourage people. Sometimes Krishna won't send us a new person, he'll send us a devotee who needs, that's even more pleasing to Lord Chaitanya in the ways that we're serving those who are already serving Lord Chaitanya. We should always have that mentality. That's what I'm getting at, is that it's not a matter of, I'm going to go out and preach today, and then I'm going to, do my thing, and I'm going to do my thing, and then I'm going to go on books. It's a matter of, we're always in the battlefield. There's just not a fight going on. The war is going on right now. It's happening. We're just simply not in the battle yet. But when the battle comes, we should be ready. There's nothing worse than getting in a philosophical argument with someone and not having the tools to defeat them. That is really, really not fun for a devotee. But better we develop the sense of being like Navy SEALs, there is no way anybody can possibly defeat me, not because I'm great, but because my Guru and Srila Prabhupada are standing behind me. And because of that, all I have to do is pray to them. And then they will just simply speak words to my mouth to defeat whoever, to help this person become a devotee. And it's another thing too, that the Madhyamadikari or the Uttamadikari, the advanced devotees, they're thinking, it says, and not only is he convinced himself, but he can convince others on the strength of Vedic evidence. So we should understand the Shastra and use Vedic evidence. That helps us. Sometimes people say, we don't need to, it's not about how much you know. No, it has a lot to do with it. Sorry. The more you study, the more you're going to be able to preach. It's not a matter of, you might not be able, memorization is something else. That's not something everybody has, but, you have to study. You have to know the philosophy. You have to be convinced yourself. I mean, even some of the greatest preachers in our movement, like Radhanath Swami, he's not he's very, very shastric, but he's not so, he's not quoting shlokas after another, one after another, he's not so analytical. He makes so many people devotees by just telling stories, explain the logic behind the leelas, We can do that in the same way you can explain the logic behind the leela. Take a, beautiful example, just the Bhagavad Gita, you can analyze Arjuna's position and analyze it with our position and explain why surrendering to Krishna brings us such a wonderful result. So we should have that mentality of wherever we're at. It's not, sometimes people just don't understand this. I'm not trying to criticize anybody, but they just don't understand that the goal is to help people become devotees. And if you're giving a class and there's a new person, you should speak in such a way that they become devotees. But they just don't understand. They just cannot understand that sometimes. I don't get it. The goal is to help people become devotees. That is the goal. So in order to, if you understand that is what's actually pleasing Lord Chaitanya, that is what this movement is. So you'll burn out a brand new person because they're, sitting the wrong way or putting the Bhagavad Gita on the floor, rather than like at all costs, you have to preserve their devotional creeper. That is the mentality of a preacher. At all costs, you have to preserve that creeper. You cannot damage it. You have to do things in a way that helps them become a devotee. Otherwise, you are directly working against Lord Chaitanya's movement. But I chant 16 rounds. I follow 4 regulative principles. Well, still, you're not pleasing Krishna. I'm sorry. If you want to please Krishna, you have to think in that way. You have to. That's the consciousness. So it also elevates you. It's also a type of sadhana, because you're constantly thinking, how do I act in such a way that is truthful, beneficial, speaking the Vedic conclusions, but at the same time not agitating to others. That's the austerity of speech. So I'm speaking the truth, Prabhu, but you're agitating. You're not actually performing austerity. You're not going through what it takes to actually speak in a sweet way, helping people. It's a very, very real thing. So, I mean, I'm sure we've all experienced that, it's like, I'm just telling it how it is. Well, you just ran off every single new person that was here. Your preaching was fruitless. So you have to understand and do it in a proper way. I'm not saying you water down the philosophy, you don't. But you have to develop the proper understanding. What does that require? That requires being personal. That's what this whole movement is. It's about being personal. And my Guru Maharaj says that so many times. It's not about what you say. It's about how you make people feel. Rangamantri was saying that last night, that the consciousness of the person speaking is really carrying more. So we have to be thinking in that way that, I call it an order of operations, right? People who do math, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Right? Order of operations. First you do the parentheses and the exponents. Then you do the multiplication and division, and then you do the addition and the subtraction. That's how you solve an equation. If you do the subtraction and the addition first, the equation is going to come out wrong. So in the same way, when you're thinking about preaching, when you're thinking about being in the Hare Krishna movement, its first thing should be, how do I help this person become a devotee? That's the first thing. And then everything else is funneled down after that. But if we do this lesser thing first, then it's gonna, it could burn out this person. You have to be very careful. So we should always have that mentality of, this is a preaching movement. Everything we're doing is to give Krishna to others. Otherwise, we would just go be, bhajan and nandis and just sit in the forest and chant Hare Krishna. But we're not. We're doing everything to help people come to Krishna. So, what we do, our behavior, everything, that puts the preacher right in the front line all the time. We're always in the battlefield, because even if I'm not necessarily preaching, I'm just I'm just wearing a dhoti out in town, I get mad, I freak out on someone, people at the restaurant see, that's affecting preaching. You have to be aware of that. That's the consciousness of a devotee. We have to be aware of that. And Krishna will send you people if we are. And we're preaching not because of our, sometimes it's a tendency that we want to preach for our own glory. It's like, I want to have something. I have something, I have my classes I give. I'm doing this. And I'm important because I'm also preaching. Well, this is not the mentality either. We should actually think, more importantly, are they becoming devotees? That's the most important thing. So if someone else is preaching and is doing good, we should be happy. I always feel like when, Balaram Shakti Prabhu, when he's here, he's a really nice preacher, and I always feel like, oh yeah, thank God, Balaram Shakti's here. Now I can people are going to go to him and ask questions, and I can like have a moment. When I see someone like, oh, they're with Bharat Shakti, thank goodness, I always feel that way, or they're talking to Lavanga, like, wow, okay, good, no worries here. It's like that we should feel, happy if Krishna is happy, and sad if Krishna is sad. Krishna is unhappy, we should be unhappy. But Krishna is happy when people are spreading Krishna consciousness. So if you see that someone's becoming a devotee, I have nothing to do with it, that's fine. At least they're becoming devotees. I'm happy. I'm happy to help and serve that person. But we have to have the faith that Krishna will send me the people I need to speak to, the people I need to distribute books to. Empowerment is real. If it wasn't, how is it that I can go out with the same sign, the same table, the same spot, the same books, and distribute the same amount of time and distribute, 20 Bhagavad Gita's max, yet Parameshwar Prabhu can go out to the same spot with the same sign, same table, same amount of time, and distribute, 300, 400 Bhagavad Gitas. Because empowerment is real. That desire in your heart to do something for Krishna is reciprocated with, but it has to be selfless. So if we're preaching in a way that we want the glory, then our preaching won't be fruitful. But if we're preaching in a way that we just want, Guru Maharaj to be happy, that this is my service to my Guru, we have that mentality, and out of love and compassion, based on intelligence, then we get this miraculous amount of mercy. And you feel Krishna's love. You go in front of the deities and you just feel Gauranga like giving you thumbs up. I mean, after a night of preaching, if I talk to someone, I go to Mangalarti the next day, I just feel like superpower. Gauranga giving me a high five, because you're doing exactly what they want you to do. And if you read the books, especially the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, you realize that this movement is not a made-up thing. This is the exact same movement that Lord Chaitanya started. It's non-different. It's not a modern version of that movement. Some people are trying to make it that. This is the same movement that Lord Chaitanya started. All of our activities are the same. We're going out on Sankirtan, hopefully. Because if you're not going out on Sankirtan, you're not serving Lord Chaitanya, then what movement are you in? Right? It's the Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement. So, not the, not just this, religious thing that, go to the church thing. It's, we're here, we're supposed to be congregationally chanting Hare Krishna, which we do every morning. My favorite part of the day is the Kirtan. So if we're not engaging in Kirtan, if we're not, doing service, what movement are we in? Not the Japa movement, it's the Sankirtan movement. Japa is part of it. And especially if we're burning out people, if we're mean to people who come to the temple, that is not the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. That's the I want glory, fame, profit, adoration movement, and I'm angry all the time. That's, I'm upset because I'm not getting the gratification I need movement. So, so it's kind of a rant class, but it's just coming from, I preach, and it's more like realization than, going where I normally would do. But we should preach in such a way that it's just service. Like Jesus Christ, he says, you throw the seeds on the road, some of them grow, some of them land in the soil, and some of them land on the stone. But either way, you're throwing the seeds. So we're throwing those seeds of bhakti out there. Some of them will grow, some of them won't. But we should try to throw as many as we can out. So we want to bring people to this movement because it is liberating them. And we'll become liberated ourselves. We'll become so blissed out. So any questions or comments? Gauranga?
I should probably wait for
Okay, so that was your class was a really nice example of how this is verse applied to us right here and right now. So I appreciate the realized class, because sometimes you could have gotten up there and just quoted a bunch of slokas about the importance of spreading Christian consciousness. But sometimes people just go to sleep because it's like, how does this not during your classes, but so let people wonder, how does this apply to me right here, right now? What does this practically look like? Things like that. So very nice on that point. But one of the things that I was thinking about when you're talking about spreading Krishna consciousness was, I was thinking how much I appreciate Omar, because he's like, whenever he travels, he's like taking books to his friends. And I was thinking the other day when he came in to get like 6 Gitas for his trip to Colorado, I was thinking to myself, I can never carry 6 Gitas because that would be way too heavy. And then, but he's doing it. And then I remember one time I told Krishna, I said, Krishna, I can't stop people in public when I'm traveling. If somebody wants to know, you just got to send them to me. And then Krishna sent sit next to somebody on the plane that wants to know about Krishna. Somebody that's driving the cart in the airport wants to know about Krishna. It's like, so Krishna will do that. We'll do that to you as well. Send someone that wants to hear about it.
Yeah, that's an important. That reminds me of this idea too, that like people, we can even get to the point of like, we are so serious about our sadhana that we're willing to, not preach. And I'm sorry, like all the people that actually inspire me, just saying, like, just throwing that out there, that no offenses, but the devotees who really have the mercy and really inspire me, there's a common theme that they put others beyond themselves. Now, we shouldn't let our sadhana go below a certain level. But if the case comes where someone's asking questions into the night, and I choose not to, sit there with them, what am I? No, I have to. It's my duty to my guru and to Srila Prabhupada and to Lord Chaitanya. This person was sent to me. It's my duty to preach to them. I have to give them. I have to try as hard as I can to help them become a devotee. I may only see them one time, but like I was with one devotee, the first devotee I met, I was with them for 2 weeks, and they never ever left my consciousness. And I'm a devotee now because of it. And they took that extra time. So you have to give that out. Mary?
When you were talking about going door to door and trying to make somebody, turn them on to Krishna. And I have this little analogy that if you want somebody to take something you have, or you want to share it with them, here's my analogy. You're sitting on a bus and you want everybody to eat your Cracker Jacks. But you don't say, hey, you want Cracker Jacks? You want my Cracker Jacks? You want some? Come on, try this. Because then they go, hey, what's wrong with it, right? They're going to think, oh, but if you just sit there and smile and eat your Cracker Jacks, everybody come on, hey, what you eating? Can I have some? Can I taste that? Or I'm going to buy me some of that. Because you just sit and just be.
Yeah.
And when we push, and it's also like that analogy where you're pushing a string across it. You can pull a string, but you can't push it.
Yeah.
And we push, we don't get our will done when we shove something or try to force it. We just have to let it be.
Yeah, you have to be Krishna consciousness to inspire people in Krishna consciousness. If you're joyful, people will want to be like you. It's just all there is to it.
They want what you got.
That's how it is. You want to preach? Be Krishna conscious. It's not so hard. Doesn't matter where you're at or how you speak, all that stuff kind of falls away when you become Krishna conscious. If you think about a great example is Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was the most learned, absolutely. But especially the early classes, Prabhupada's very difficult to understand sometimes with his heavy accent, Bengali accent. You know, but still, he was so attractive by his being Krishna conscious. You know, so it's a matter of being Krishna conscious. If I don't, you know, you can get the same person to give the same class, but if they don't chant Hare Krishna good rounds, they don't, you know, they don't keep their mind in a good place, they go into nonsense all the time, they're putting nonsense, then it's just going to be like empty words, you know, it's not going to have that potency. But someone who really has the Krishna consciousness, you know, when they speak, it always is, like Navina Narada Prabhu told me, you know, like whatever I'm saying, actually I'm only saying Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So you know, I'm saying, hey, how are you? Come get this book. Actually, what's really coming out, they can't hear it, but what really is it's just Krishna conscious, pure Krishna conscious, because his sadhana is so intense. You know, and if you've ever been with Navina Prabhu, one of the best Bhagavad readers in the world, you know, his sadhana is very intense, like high level sadhana. So anyhow, anybody else have anything quickly? I think we're out of time. Thank you for listening. I'm sorry it was a little bit ranty today, but yeah, you know. Thank you. Cut her down. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki.